It's 2014, and I'm on an awards cruise with friends and coworkers at the company that I work at. We just spent the last few days in the Caribbean sun, and every year the company sends their top performers on this cruise, and here we are. We decided to do something crazy on the last morning. On the last morning, we decided to climb up to the highest point of the ship, so the mast on the ship, and we're up there. There's 5 of us. We start talking about our dreams, our goals. What do we want to accomplish over the next year? And about this time, as we're talking, I hear something. Now I look to my left, and I hear it, and what I hear is this sonar unexpectedly starting to spin. And I see it spin, and then I see it sweep around, and it hits my friend Kendall in the chest, sweeps him over the railing. He fell 2 stories. Now, about this time, I look down, and I think, maybe it'll be a little fall, and he'll just have a small injury, broken arm. He'll look up and say, hey, I'm okay. But I looked down, and he wasn't moving. About this time, my friend Christian, he yells out, somebody get some help. And that's when I realized this was very serious. I scale down the railing. I'm the first one to get down there. He still isn't moving. I get down there. I roll him over. Still isn't moving. We call the paramedics. They get there as fast as they can. Seems like what takes forever. They get there. They rush him down to the medical room below the ship. They rush the ship into port. They put Kendall in an ambulance and rush him to the hospital. Kendall passed away on the way to the hospital. A few weeks later, I was talking with his dad, Bob, after his funeral. His dad, Bob, just this incredible guy. And he said, Kendall, he was my only son. He's the family name. I'm old. I can't have more kids. The only good that can come out of this is if other people's lives are positively impacted by the fact that this happened. This just kind of hit me in the chest, forced me to ask the question, what can I do about this? A few months previously to Kendall passing away, I found out that he had actually attended one of my random trainings just like this about how to write and publish a book, and he had actually written the rough draft of his book. So a few months after Kendall passed away, we were able to publish his book with the help of friends and family. Now, this is the night before he passed away, and I'm thinking, he talked to me about his dreams. He talked to me about his goals. He'll never be able to accomplish any of those goals. Now I'm living for 2. I'm living to accomplish his goals, and I'm living to accomplish my goals. And that's why every single day since that accident, I've worn this bracelet that says, make him proud. Now, it was kind of this moment that forced me to take inventory of my life and look at the things that I was doing. And I realized there was only a handful of things I was doing that truly mattered. And helping people write and publish books was and still is on the top of this list. Now, this forced me to crystallize and just kind of think about, form this fundamental belief about humanity, and that is this. The best way that you can serve humanity is to write a book. Now, I know this sounds like a grandiose statement, but since then, I've dedicated my life to this singular purpose, and we've been able to help over 4,500 authors on their journey to writing and publishing their book through my company, Self-Publishing School. Now, after working with authors in over 65 countries and helping sell hundreds of thousands of books, we've discovered a methodology for helping aspiring authors get their books done. Now, in this talk, I'm going to share with you the how, the what, and the why behind that methodology. First, why does this matter? Next, what keeps most people from getting started? And last, how to get your rough draft done in as little as a weekend. Now, first, in terms of why this matters. So we've discovered something we call leveraged impact. Now, leveraged impact, we believe that books are changing the way that information is passed from one person to another. So when you think about how information is passed along, or traditions or anything like that, you think of one-to-one. So one person teaches another person that thing. Or maybe it's a classroom setting. So you think one-to-many. So one person teaches 10, 20, or 30 people that thing. Well, the really cool thing about books is that you're able to crystallize all these ideas that you have in your head and put those in a singular book, and then that book's able to impact thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. That is leveraged impact. Now, more specifically, leveraged impact is the ability to impact 3 distinct groups of people. Group number 1 are your friends and family. These are people who come in contact with you while you're writing this book, and their life is changed because you did the impossible. You made the impossible possible. You wrote this book. And then group number 2, you've got 1,000 readers. These are 1,000 people, we'll call it, who read your book and are impacted by that book. And then group number 3 is one person. This is one person in your life. This could be a reader. This could be a family member. But their life is completely changed by the fact that you wrote this book. They go on to do something big. Maybe it's to write a book themselves. Maybe it's to lose weight. Maybe it's to make the impossible possible and just take on this big challenge that they previously viewed as impossible. Now, a great example of this is Sean Sumner. Sean's a physical therapist, and he worked with me to write and publish 2 books. Now, after Sean published his books, his 8-year-old daughter came up to him and said, "Dad, this is awesome. I want to write a book." He said, "Okay, Emma, why don't you go write 50 words and then come back to me?" He thought, she's probably not going to do it. This might not, this is just going to be an idea that will be fleeting. And a few hours later, she came back and she had those 50 words written. He said, "Okay, you're serious about this." And then every week after that, they'd go to Panera Bread and work on the book together. Now, a few months later, Emma published her book, The Fairies of Waterfall Island. And the story doesn't end here. So she published this book. It made over $4,000 in the first 3 months. She donated all of this money to an autism awareness charity called Autism Speaks. This is, raising awareness for autism all around the world. And now she's paying for school field trips with the royalties from this book. She has an allowance from the royalties from this book. And her life has forever been changed because at 8 years old, she saw her dad write a book. That's leveraged impact. Now, these 3 groups combined to one book impacting 1,200 people. Now, according to the New York Times, we know that 81% of people want to write a book, but less than 1% of people actually do it. Why is that? It's because there's these 2 pervasive myths that keep people from getting started. Myth number 1 is that you need an agent or a publisher to publish a book. So in the old days, you needed a publisher to get into bookstores, and bookstores were the only way that you sold books. Well, now, over 70% of all books sold are sold on Amazon, and you don't need a publisher to publish a book on Amazon. So Amazon has over 310 million users, and they've just radically shifted the landscape away from traditional publishing and towards self-publishing. So self-publishing has now become the preferred option for authors. No longer is it the redheaded stepchild, the thing that you only do if you can't get a traditional publishing deal. Now that leads me to myth number 2, which is that it takes years to write a book. So people think that this takes years, and yes, when you had a publisher, it did take years. But even then, almost all the progress on your book was made in the last 2 months before the manuscript was due. So by removing the publisher and by the process that we've learned over the past few years, we've been able to shorten this timeline from 2 years down to 90 days. And here's how you do it. So when you get started on your book, I want you to singularly focus on getting your rough draft done. There's kind of this crazy thing that happens when you get this rough draft done, and you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? So you start to believe that this thing is possible. So with that in mind, we're going to start with what I call the 24-hour book outline challenge. This is really how to write your book in 3 steps. Now, step number 1 is to create a mind map. A mind map is simply a brain dump of all the ideas that you have on this book. So you're going to take 15 to 45 minutes, and you're going to take a blank sheet of paper, write down everything that you can think of on this book, okay? And then step number 2, you're going to turn that mind map into an outline. So to do this, you're going to start to group some of these ideas into groups of ideas or into sections. So we'll call this 5 sections. So you're grouping this together, and then you're going to order those sections in the order that you want to cover them in the book. So now you got 5 sections in the order that you want to cover them, and you're going to drill down into each section with about 3 chapters per section. So with that, you've got, these 5 sections, you've got 3 chapters per section. This forms the 15-chapter outline for your book. Now, once you get this done, writing the book actually becomes the easy part, which I know probably sounds crazy, but here's how you do it. Stick with me. So we're going to move to step 3, which is to write the book. All right, now to do this, you're going to repeat the exact same process that I taught you on a macro level for the book as a whole, and you're going to repeat that per chapter. So you'll start with chapter number 1, and you're going to spend 10 minutes mind mapping everything that you can think of on that chapter, then 10 minutes turning that mind map into an outline, and then you're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour and a half actually writing the chapter. And you're going to repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter. Now, this is where this gets fun. So some of you maybe speak better than you write. If you speak better than you write, this kind of becomes a choose your own adventure. So you're going to repeat this same process, but instead of writing the chapter, you're going to speak the chapter. So you're going to take 10 minutes to speak the chapter and then get that transcribed. And you'll repeat that process chapter by chapter by chapter. So to repeat, there's 3 steps to writing your book. Step number 1, create a mind map. Step number 2, turn that mind map into an outline. And then step number 3, write or speak your book one chapter at a time. And again, you're going to repeat this process chapter by chapter by chapter. Now, when you do this, it is possible to get the rough draft of your book done in as little as a weekend, which again, I know sounds crazy. I'm on a mission to help 100,000 people write and publish their book. And when we do that, through leveraged impact, we're going to be able to impact 120 million people around the world. This starts with you. This starts one mind map, one outline, one rough draft at a time. So I encourage you to take the 24-hour book outline challenge today and commit to getting your book outline done in the next 24 hours. I'll leave you with this. One of the most common excuses I hear from people who, they've been thinking about writing this book, but they haven't done it yet is this: Chandler, I don't have time. Or maybe, Chandler, the timing just isn't right. I know I need to do this, but just not right now. Okay, so they think they're gonna have this magical time where they're gonna have no kids, no job, no responsibilities, no business. They're gonna have a week in a writer's cabin, and that is when they'll get their book done. Well, I've got bad news. That's not gonna happen. You're gonna have to get started before you're ready. So pick up your pen, pick up your keyboard, and get your rough draft done. When you do, you might just change your life, and you might just change 1,200 of them. Make him proud. Make us all proud. Thank you.